Millionaire discovers his 8-year-old daughter's incredible secret life, surprising truth exposed. Mark Anderson leaned back in his leather chair, the distant sounds of laughter from the backyard fading into a dull hum. Outside, the sun bathed the sprawling mansion in golden light, a stark contrast to the shadows gathering inside him. He glanced at the walls adorned with awards that reflected his relentless climb to the top of the legal world. Yet amidst his towering achievements, an unsettling emptiness settled in his heart. His daughter Lily, typically chatty and bright, had grown increasingly withdrawn, her vibrant spirit subdued into silence. As a workaholic lawyer, he had convinced himself her quiet behavior was just a phase, a natural progression in childhood rebellion. But deep down, something gnawed at him. As Mark sifted through piles of old papers and dusty files in his home office, his fingers brushed against a brightly colored, crumpled piece of paper. Curiosity piqued, he pulled it out and unfolded it. It was an art project Lily created for her school contest, a chaotic collage filled with expressive doodles, painted words, and raw emotion. At first, a flicker of pride ignited within him. She was talented, insightful. But that pride quickly soured as he considered his next move. Displaying her work at the parents' night event seemed like an obvious choice. But what if her classmates mocked it? Driven by a desperate desire to connect, he brushed aside his reservations. When the day arrived, Mark entered the crowded gymnasium, clutching Lily's masterpiece like a lifeline. As he presented it to the gathering of parents, a hush fell over the audience before ripples of laughter erupted. Whispers spread like wildfire. Why would he think this is good? Doesn't he realize what a joke this is? Each laugh punctured his heart, and it shattered when he caught sight of Lily, her small face crumpling into tears. In one moment, he had transformed from a well-respected lawyer into a source of shame for his daughter. Humiliation clawed at him as she darted out of the room, leaving him alone in the chaos of his making. Desperation drove Mark to seek the guidance of school resources, but what he uncovered was a tight-knit community steered by a wealthy benefactor whose grip on the local school system was suffocating. Just as he dared to believe he could mend his fractured relationship with Lily, he discovered that the benefactor was hell-bent on dismantling the very social programs Lily so passionately supported. Anger bubbled within him, clashing with guilt over his own privilege. How had he allowed himself to be blind to her world? He feared losing everything. His career, his reputation, and most worrisome of all, his daughter. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mark's mind raced as he absorbed the full weight of his dilemma. Should he use his wealth to bulldoze through obstacles for Lily's benefit? Or should he step back and let her navigate the complexities of her dreams? Was he prepared to risk everything he'd built for the sake of truly supporting the child he barely understood? The pounding of his heart echoed in his ears, drowning out rational thought. He caught glimpses of Lily through the cracked door, her bright laugh transformed into a quiet conversation with a friend over FaceTime, her hopes and fears spilling into the air like secrets. Mark's body froze. Who was she without him as a provider? The thought twisted inside him like a knife. Had he ever truly been the father she needed, or just a figurehead floating in her world? Standing at a precipice of realization, Mark clenched his fists, the taste of desperation rising in his throat. He felt torn between protecting her and shattering the glass walls surrounding their lives, a swirl of emotions crashing over him. In that agonizing moment, he knew only one thing. To uncover the truth about Lily's remarkable life, he would have to confront the bitter truths he'd spent years avoiding. But as he contemplated his next steps, the unsettling question lingered. Could he ever break free from the very privilege that had blinded him? Mark stood in the doorway, rooted in place as he watched Lily animatedly share her thoughts with her friend. The contrast of her vibrant self against the muted backdrop of his own inner turmoil left him grappling with a tidal wave of guilt and fear. He understood the stakes now. It was clear that he had to redefine his role, or risk losing her completely. Determined, he turned away from the door and back to his office. The reality weighed heavily on him. He had been an absentee father, too focused on his career to truly engage with his daughter's life. This was not just about Lily's artistic expression or academic support. It was about her spirit, her voice being suffocated by his expectations and the privileges he adorned. Mark began to make a mental inventory of what he knew about her. Art, friendship, dreams. Each element reflected a world he was only just starting to understand. But as he pieced it together, the realization struck him. How could he forge a bond with his daughter when he had been so distant? His heart raced as he considered how every moment of silence had only deepened the chasm between them. He reached for his phone, an idea igniting within him. This would be the first step. Not to buy his way into her life, but to become an active participant. He sent her a simple text. "Can we talk, just us?" Minutes felt like hours as he waited for a reply, his chest tightening with anticipation. When Lily's response pinged back, he felt a rush of relief mixed with anxiety. "Sure, Daddy," it read. Just those 2 words were enough to ignite a flicker of hope within him. He chose a cafe they both loved, a cozy spot adorned with vibrant art pieces similar to what she loved creating. The surroundings buzzed with the laughter of other families, and the aroma of roasted coffee filled the air, an inviting atmosphere to bridge the gap between father and daughter. He arrived early, his mind swirling with questions about how to approach her without crushing her spirit again. When Lily walked in, she looked a little hesitant, fidgeting with a bracelet she wore. Seeing her face, which mirrored the uncertainty he felt inside, tugged at Mark's heart. He forced a smile and waved, sinking into the moment as he stood to greet her. "Hey, pumpkin," he said softly, motioning her to sit. "Hey, Dad." Her voice was quiet, betraying the slight restraint she seemed to hold. Mark winced inwardly, painfully aware of how his past mistakes had drawn that barrier between them. "Lily, I've been thinking. I want to learn more about what you love, about you, your art, your friends, everything really," he began, his tone intentionally gentle. Surprise flickered across her face, and he could see the gears turning in her mind. "You really mean it?" she asked, a hint of hope breaking through her earlier reserve. "Yes. I'm sorry I haven't been there like I should have. I want to support you, not just with art, but to truly understand you. Can you show me?" Silence enveloped them, the honest sincerity in his voice hanging in the air. He watched the walls around Lily begin to crack. "Okay," she said cautiously. "But it might not be what you expect." "Anything you love is worth knowing," he replied, meaning every word. In that moment, he shed the layers of his past self, ready to be the father she needed. Lily opened up, starting to share her dreams and aspirations. The words spilled from her lips like a long-held secret. Mark felt his heart swell with pride and determination. He would not let this connection fade again. But as they left the cafe, a growing unease twisted in his gut. Would the forces standing against what Lily valued try to sabotage this newfound bond? With the benefactor's shadow lingering over their lives, both her passion and his role as a father would be tested. The stakes had been raised, and Mark knew the next move would define everything. He would have to confront the benefactor directly, risking the comfort of his status to protect the dream that was blossoming inside Lily. The time had come to face an unsettling truth. He was more than just a father. He was an advocate, and he would not stand idly by as others threatened his daughter's world. With newfound resolve, he envisioned the battle ahead. What did it truly mean to fight for someone he loved? Determined to discover the depths of his commitment, he silently vowed that he would not back down. In that moment of clarity, he recognized another reality. It was not just about protecting Lily, but finding the strength to protect himself from the chains of privilege that had blurred his judgment. He had finally stepped into the light. Now came the hardest part, readying himself for the confrontation ahead with the benefactor. The stakes were high, and he could no longer afford to lose. As they walked towards home, Mark's heart raced, both with anxiety and determination. The outcome of his quest felt monumental, but he understood one thing more clearly than ever. If he wanted to fight for Lily's dreams, he would need to summon an inner resolve he had never known before. The next few days would reveal whether he was prepared to face the man who had held power over their lives for far too long. The looming confrontation awaited him, and Mark felt the charge of an impending storm just on the horizon. Mark spent the subsequent days anxiously crafting a plan, each hour escalating his resolve while simultaneously heightening his fear. He animatedly replayed every conversation with Lily, sifting through the moments of vulnerability she shared. Each word stirred a powerful urge within him, not just to shield her, but to demonstrate that fatherhood could be more than an obligation. It could be a profound partnership. He immersed himself in research after research, navigating the labyrinth of the benefactor's influence. To challenge the man would require understanding his tactics, his motivations. Mark had always been a strategist in his profession, but this time, the stakes felt personal. The benefactor wielded power with an iron grip, and Mark felt like a novice about to step into a lion's den, unprepared, yet unable to retreat. On a particularly restless night, an idea struck him. He hadn't merely to fight against the benefactor, he had to reshape how they perceived him. As a father with a vested interest in Lily's dreams, he wouldn't just be opposing an adversary, but emphasizing a new narrative, one that displayed both Lily's talents and his growing commitment to nurturing them. If he could invite the benefactor to see this new dynamic between father and daughter, perhaps their bond could shift from adversarial to collaborative. The next day, a plan formed in his mind. He reached out, requesting a formal meeting with the benefactor, projecting confidence despite the turmoil inside. To secure this meeting was just as daunting as facing the man himself, but he recognized the necessity of confronting this challenge head-on. His heart was throbbing when he hit send on the email, laying the groundwork for the showdown he never wanted, but knew was essential. In the days leading up to the meeting, Mark leaned on the newly formed connection with Lily more than ever. He encouraged her to embrace her art, creating a space where her creativity could flourish without constraints. They spent hours painting together, an activity rife with laughter and discovery as she taught him about colors and brushstrokes, the very essence of her world. Every moment added layers to Mark's understanding of her, and, in tandem, refined his personal vision. This new fatherly stance began to feel empowering. He felt more like an ally, and less like a mere authority trying to impose restrictions. It transformed the bond he sought with Lily from a simple connection into a true collaboration. He realized that to advocate for her, he had to firmly believe in the value of her art and her voice, a parallel growth igniting in his own aspirations. As he walked into the meeting room, a weighty blend of dread and anticipation gripped him. This was where his newfound clarity would be tested. The lifeless fluorescent lights cast an unwelcoming glow against the polished mahogany table, and he felt cold. The benefactor entered with a confident stride, an unyielding grin instantly sending a shiver down Mark's spine. He was accustomed to maneuvering through deals with an intent focus, yet as he sat down, Mark steadied his breath. "Mr. Delaney," the benefactor greeted, his tone dripping with a condescending familiarity. "I assume you understand the nature of this meeting." Mark clenched his fists under the table, pushing back against the impulse to let rage engulf him. Instead, he reminded himself of the purpose driving him, the opportunity to advocate for Lily's dreams. "I do," he replied, trying to match the benefactor's gaze with unwavering clarity. but I also believe there's an opportunity here for collaboration." As he spoke, the benefactor's expression shifted ever so slightly. Mark noticed it, a crack in the veneer of confidence. Perhaps he had underestimated the emotional investment Mark had in this matter. "You see," Mark continued, grounding himself in certainty, "Lily is not just a project. She is a gifted artist. And I want to ensure that she thrives, not just survives." The benefactor leaned back, folding his arms, measuring Mark's words as if trying to decipher a script. Mark felt a newfound strength welling within him. He was no longer the man who existed under the benefactor's shadow. But deep inside him, a resonating question surged forth. Would this confrontation genuinely persuade the man to reevaluate his stance, or merely intensify the battle for Lily's future? As they delved deeper into the discussions, Mark realized he was not just fighting for his daughter. He was ultimately wrestling with a powerful reflection of himself, one that had taken too long to forge. Outside the walls of the meeting room, a storm gathered, mirroring the tempest stirring within him. The reality was dawning. This was not merely about keeping Lily safe from the benefactor's influence, but about redefining his legacy as her father. The stakes now felt higher than ever as Mark uncovered the path within himself that was prepared for this fight, no matter the outcome. As the conversation intensified, the benefactor leaned in, his tone sharper. "You really believe you can protect her, don't you?" And in that moment, Mark understood. The coming words would reveal not only how far he had come, but also how much further he still had to go. Mark felt the tension in the room pulsing like an electric current, heightening his awareness of every detail. The way the benefactor's fingers drummed lightly on the table, the slow, deliberate way he took in Mark's stance. "Protecting her from what exactly?" the benefactor asked, his voice laced with disdain and challenge. As he faced the man, Mark's mind raced. Was it only Lily's artistic integrity at stake? Or was this about his own inadequacies as a father? He realized he had spent too much of his life defining his worth through his career alone, neglecting the emotional landscape that was now at the forefront of his existence. The benefactor's glib remarks were not merely personal attacks. They struck at the heart of his identity. "I'm protecting her from the idea that her talent is simply a tool for profit," Mark responded, feeling motivation surge within him. "That her art is a project rather than an expression of who she is. If that's all you see, then you can't possibly understand what she's capable of." He watched for signs that his words affected this man, the flicker of surprise, the moment when arrogance faltered. Instead, the benefactor only smirked. "Interesting take, but where's the proof? You've built a glorious narrative, but at the end of the day, she's still just a child. Children can be fickle, and so can their dreams." Mark's heart sank at the suggestion, yet it ignited a new fire within him. His voice regained strength, fueled by the sincerity of his passion. "She deserves the chance to explore her potential without being exploited. I'm here not just as her father, but as her advocate. You underestimate her, and you underestimate me." The meeting took on an unexpected shape. Mark felt less like an interloper facing an immovable wall, and more like a contender in an arena of ideals. The benefactor might be an experienced player in the game of influence, but Mark was reshaping the battlefield. As they maneuvered through tactical discussions, Mark realized that it wasn't all about counter-arguments. It was about building a constructive vision. He began to articulate a plan for Lily, one that safeguarded her artistry, while also recognizing the realities that came with aspirations. Collaboration was both a negotiation term and a mindset he intended to embody. "Imagine a partnership," he proposed, "where we develop not just her skills, but also a sustainable foundation for her growth. I'm not naive about the business side of art, but I won't allow it to overshadow who she is." The benefactor's demeanor shifted slightly, as if Mark's ideas were gaining traction. For the first time, he seemed more intrigued than dismissive. "And how would you manage this? Most parents either push too hard or don't push at all. Where do you see yourself in this dynamic?" Mark paused, courage bubbling within him. "Right alongside her. As her father, I won't stand behind her. I'll stand beside her. Together we can develop a framework that values authenticity over mere profitability. As the words flowed, he could feel a new conviction solidifying his stance. The storm outside had subsided, but the clouds still hid the sun. For Mark, though, a light flickered in the uncertainty. Not just for Lily's future, but for his own growth as a father, a creator of opportunities. If he truly believed in his daughter's gifts, he needed to embody the very principles he sought to instill in her. Mark leaned closer, emboldened. I've come to realize that this isn't about winning a battle, but rather navigating a partnership that honors her journey while allowing her to be the artist she wishes to be. The benefactor studied him, his confident facade crackling at the edges. So you think you can shift the paradigm? You can convince me? Mark felt the air charge with possibilities. He wasn't merely on the defensive anymore. No. He was inviting the benefactor into a new narrative, one that was compelling and imbued with emotional authenticity. I believe we can redefine what success looks like, for both of us. The real question is, do you want to be part of that journey? The benefactor's brow furrowed, revealing uncertainty where confidence once thrived. Just then, another thought struck Mark. If this man hadn't fully grasped the depth of Lily's artistry, what further insights existed about her potential he had yet to discover? As the conversation deepened, he felt some distance narrowing, the space where a father's love met a benefactor's ambition. Hope lingered, thickening the air between them, threatening to shift the course of their discourse entirely. Yet still, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that this was just a prelude. What if there were corners of Lily's life the benefactor had secret access to? What if this meeting had exposed more than just a strategic business proposal? A deeper instinct gnawed at him, one that hinted at greater revelations yet to unfold. His pulse quickened as he contemplated the unknown. The fight might have taken a fascinating turn, but the outcome was still unclear. Mark braced himself, convinced that revealing the truth of his daughter's essence was only the beginning, not the end of this complicated journey. The benefactor's next words hung in the balance like an unsolved riddle. You speak of partnership, but can you handle what lies beneath the surface? Mark's heart thudded in his chest at the benefactor's challenge. The words hung like a heavy fog in the air, pressing down on him and erasing the momentary hope that had sparked between them. Beneath the surface? Mark echoed, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. What do you mean? The benefactor leaned back, an inscrutable smile creeping across his face as if he savored the tension. Let's just say, in this line of work, you learn to observe more than the obvious. Children sometimes have more layers than their parents can handle. A chill ran down Mark's spine. What could this man possibly know? Was there an aspect of Lily's life he was blissfully ignorant about? The thought gnawed at him, and he felt a sharp sense of urgency. He needed clarity, not just for his peace of mind, but to effectively champion Lily's dreams. What secrets are you alluding to? Mark shifted forward, focusing intently on the benefactor's eyes, which glinted with a mix of amusement and challenge. If you have information about my daughter, I deserve to know. This isn't a game. The benefactor's expressions took on a mocking tone. Oh, I assure you it's seldom a game, Mark. Children have their own realities. Sometimes they don't even involve their parents. She's been expressing herself in ways that may surprise you. With each word, Mark felt a sense of panic operating just beneath his resolve. Had he failed to see the whole picture? Had he disregarded parts of Lily's development in pursuit of his protective instincts? The desire to shield her from exploitation may have blinded him to her evolving narrative. I need to understand how you know this, he pressed, steadiness flooding his words despite the chaos in his mind. Tell me what you mean. The benefactor leaned in, suddenly less teased by the interaction. Take this as a small lesson in awareness. As an artist, Lily is exploring ideas and identities. I've seen glimpses of her creativity that stretch far beyond what you might anticipate. But if you're only hearing half of the story, how do you plan to support that? For a moment, Mark's breath hitched, and doubt shattered through the surface he'd worked so hard to create. Had he really known his daughter at all? The thought was suffocating. What if he had unknowingly stifled her potential by projecting his own fears onto her? "I'm willing to learn," he admitted, surprising even himself. "What do you see? What should I be looking for?" The benefactor seemed to savor the moment, a cat playing with its food. "Just keep your eyes open. Children communicate their essence in more ways than one. Behind painted canvases, in the rhythms of their dance, or even in their silence." A realization struck Mark as his own memories flickered like old film reels. Lily had shown him bits of herself through small, unfiltered moments. He remembered her drawing stories long before she'd had formal lessons, the way she danced in the living room as if she were sharing a secret only the music could fathom. Those were treasures he could have cherished more deeply, instead caught in parental projections of what should be or shouldn't be. "Show me," Mark said, a fire igniting within him. "Let's investigate this together. Help me understand what she's capable of." The benefactor's keen gaze softened momentarily, as if recognizing the sincerity in Mark's request. "Very well. But understand this. The picture you receive may be challenging. You'll need to confront your expectations and re-examine both your role and your daughter's artistry. Are you prepared to do that?" Mark's resolve hardened. This was about more than a business partnership. It was about stepping into the full spectrum of his daughter's life, embracing her artistry, and discovering his place in it as a father. "Yes," he declared, a newfound conviction thrumming through him. "I'm ready." "Then let's proceed. There's much to uncover," the benefactor replied, his voice now tinged with a hint of earnestness. As they delved deeper into conversation surrounding Lily's artistry, Mark's mind buzzed with questions. The shadows of doubt now mingled with a sense of purpose, pulling at him. A complex tangle of curiosity and dread about what truths might lay beneath the surface of his daughter's life. But amidst the swirling uncertainty, one thought anchored him. Was he truly ready to face whatever the next revelation would bring? An unsettling anticipation tightened around him. In opening this door, were they embarking not just on a journey for Lily, but toward uncovering hidden aspects of himself as well? Mark couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was about to begin. The moment of truth awaited just beyond the frame of this complicated partnership. The light filtered into the dimly lit studio, softening the sharp edges of the room where the benefactor had shared his unsettling insights. Mark stood alone, grappling with the implications of their conversation. Behind him, the door felt like a boundary between his past notions of fatherhood and an uncharted territory laden with discovery. He leaned against the workbench cluttered with brushes and half-finished canvases, the remnants of creativity swirling like ghosts in his mind. For so long, he had maintained a careful distance from Lily's artistic pursuits, believing he was protecting her from potential rejection and the harsh critiques of the world. But now, the benefactor's words echoed in his ears. Children communicate their essence in more ways than one. The realization that he may have been blind to Lily's true self mingled with a growing urgency to change. What if he could cultivate an environment where she could express her artistic voice freely? The thought sent ripples through his anxiety, pushing him to envision a different kind of relationship. One built on trust and understanding. He took a breath and resolved to spend more time with her work, to enter the world she occupied within those vibrant colors. On the drive home, Mark replayed moments with Lily in his mind. Her laugh as she scribbled stories on napkins. The way her eyes sparkled when she showed him her latest drawings. Those moments, once dismissible, now glinted like hidden gems, practically begging for acknowledgement. Perhaps his fears had shielded him, but what if they also had suffocated her? Upon entering the house, he found Lily sprawled on the living room floor, engaged in her latest project, turning a cardboard box into a makeshift stage for a school play. The scene filled him with a wave of tenderness, but it also pricked at his conscience. Could he still encourage her while allowing her to explore her own dimensions, free from the weight of his expectations? "Hey, Lily," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "What are you working on?" Her face lit up, an immediate break from her concentrated expression. "It's a surprise. I'm making it for my class. It's going to be a magical forest filled with talking animals." The way she described her creation birthed a smile on Mark's face. He noticed the glimmer of joy that poured from her every word, and it sparked something within him. "That's incredible. Can I help?" Lily glanced at him, surprise flickering in her eyes. "You want to help?" "Absolutely," he replied, feeling the connection begin to shift from father to collaborator. "Let's create something together." As they began crafting the stage, Mark asked her questions about her ideas, and she opened up, providing insights about her vision that were both captivating and revealing. He found himself mesmerized, watching a side of her bloom that he had relegated to the background. The laughter and creativity that flowed between them created a new foundation, a bridge to understanding. Yet as they worked, doubts crept back in. Would this newfound closeness withstand the complexities of Lily's secret artistic expressions? And how could he ensure that the environment he was creating would nurture rather than confine her? With each passing hour, Mark realized he was undergoing a transformation of his own, learning to navigate the emotional waters of fatherhood, filled with both fear and exhilaration. That evening, after the remnants of their craft session lay scattered around them, Mark felt a tension building inside of him. He knew the benefactor had hinted at deeper truths yet to be uncovered, layers of Lily's reality he had yet to glimpse. What were those truths? Could he confront them without fear? A troubling question began to take shape. Could he handle what lay beneath this newfound connection? Mark's heart raced as he pondered all the implications. The true test awaited, and unearthing Lily's artistic reality could expose vulnerabilities he wasn't prepared to face. As the cool night air drifted through the window, he understood that his journey as a father was only just beginning. The threads of discovery intertwined not only with Lily's potential, but with his own hidden capacities, pushing him toward a reckoning. Just as he considered how to approach the next steps, a thought struck him. What if this partnership unveiled secrets more profound than either had anticipated? He already sensed that beneath the surface, answers were waiting to be discovered, and he may have only scratched the beginning of what their shared journey would entail. The question lingered, heavy yet inevitable. Was he ready to peel back the layers and reveal both their truths? The dawn crept into Mark's life with a gentle insistence, ushering in a day that felt pregnant with possibility. This morning felt different, a torrent of anticipation coursing through him as he prepared for another exploration into Lily's world. He stood at the door of his studio, a subtle reminder of both his own hesitations and the fresh commitment he had made to his daughter. The echoes of the benefactor's insights urged him forward, a catalyst for change he could no longer ignore. As he made his way to the living room, he found Lily already at work again. The cardboard stage had transformed overnight into a vibrant array of colors splashed with paint. She hummed lightly, a melody that rang with unspoken joy. Mark's heart swelled as he observed her, alive in a creative trance. For the first time, he recognized that this was not just a project. It was a part of her very identity, her essence demanding to burst forth. "Wow, Lily! This looks amazing!" he exclaimed, kneeling beside her to get a closer look. Her eyes sparkled with pride as she grinned, a beautiful light igniting within her. "Thanks. I used all kinds of colors. There are going to be flowers and trees that come alive during the play." Watching her, Mark felt a resolute determination settle within him. It wasn't enough to simply encourage her. He needed to immerse himself in her world, to truly understand its pulse. Today, he planned to ask her questions that might peel back layers of her creativity, exposing the depths she dared to share. What inspired you? Mark ventured cautiously, careful to steer clear of any expectations. He aimed to create a space where her imagination could thrive. "Oh," she started, her hands animated as she launched into an explanation. "Last night, I dreamt about a forest where flowers could sing. There was a tree that danced, and I wanted to make it real." As she elaborated, Mark felt the room shift. Each detail revealed an intricate part of her inner landscape. This wasn't simply play. It was a vivid exploration of her emotions and thoughts. Yet, amidst the delight surged a disconcerting thought. How deeply had he misread her motivations? Had he allowed his fears to overshadow her beautiful capacity for wonder? "Can we work on the animals today?" he suggested, excited to collaborate. Lily's face lit up. "Yes, I have all these ideas." She ran to get her colored pencils, and as she dove deeper into her creativity, Mark found himself wrestling with a new realization. The bright colors and imaginative creatures reflected facets of Lily he had never fully acknowledged. Every brushstroke represented a choice, a voice begging to be heard. But was he truly prepared to listen without imposing his interpretation? It ignited passion and fear in equal measure, a compelling duality that mirrored his own journey. As they sketched together, he couldn't shake the gnawing uncertainty about finding a balance between nurturing Lily's freedom and understanding the road ahead. He needed to confront his own fears, questions about not just who Lily was becoming, but who he was as a father. Mark found himself continuously falling back on the notion of shielding her. Wasn't he, in essence, still trying to control her canvas? With each stroke of the pencil, the vibrant forms on paper stirred a realization deep within him. This was a reflection of them both. If he wanted her to fearlessly express herself, he would have to model the same courage. As the afternoon stretched on, an unexpected tension formed between them. A silent battle of vulnerability. Mark could feel her pulling back, guarding thoughts that seemed just beyond reach. A profound instinct nudged him. It was time to share something of himself, to extend a slice of his own vulnerabilities. "Lily," he began, his voice tentative, "I want to share something with you too. Sometimes I feel scared to be open about my ideas, like I might get them wrong." The admission hung in the air, laden with palpable heaviness. Lily paused, her eyes widening, capturing his raw honesty in a way he didn't expect. "Really? But you're my dad. You can do anything." Her reply struck him like a revelation, shaking the very foundation of his fears. He realized that perhaps, in order to be the father she needed, he had to lay bare his own insecurities. "What if we both tried? Together?" he proposed, feeling the contours of their relationship shift once again. Just as Lily began to nod, a shadow whispered at the back of Mark's mind, a sudden palpable intensity. It was a reminder that revealing oneself had consequences. The art they created would become a mirror, a gateway to truths neither of them were fully prepared to confront. As they sketched side by side, Mark understood that the journey ahead would expose not just Lily's creativity, but his own buried fears. How far would he go to cultivate a space that not only allowed for freedom, but demanded honesty? The evening closed in, accompanied by the fading sunlight, and as Mark caught Lily's hopeful gaze, he felt the weight of the next phase looming large. What undiscovered truths could emerge from this renewed bond, and would they have the courage to face them together? Mark's heart thrummed erratically as he knelt beside Lily. The pencils lay scattered around them, a vibrant tool set for their collaborative endeavor. He hadn't anticipated that his admission would spark such profound engagement within her. The way she looked at him now, full of unguarded wonder, offered a glimpse into something deeper developing between them. The weight of truth hung heavily in the air. As they traced shapes on the paper, every stroke felt like an uncommissioned conversation. Mark found himself wrestling with his own demons as he witnessed the magic emerging from his daughter's mind. How injective was she to her surroundings? What else lay hidden behind those large, knowing eyes? "Do you think your tree should have a face?" he asked, suddenly aware that he was not only seeking to make art, but also coaxing out reactions he might nourish. Lily paused, brows furrowing in contemplation. "Yes. If it can dance and sing, it should be happy, right? I wanted to tell the flowers to wake up." Her enthusiasm ignited something in him. The pathway to their connection had transformed from strict encouragement to mutual exploration. He could feel the rusted edges of his anxiety dulling, replaced momentarily with joy at witnessing her creative flow. But the question lingered. Was this true growth for both of them? Or was it merely an illusion he constructed to mask his fear? Struggling to navigate the dual corridors of their evolving bond and his underlying misgivings, Mark glanced at the creative chaos enveloping them. Paint splatters, colorful pencils, and now an artistic pursuit that bridged invisible gaps between adults and children. What if this was his second chance, not just as a father, but also as a man unearthing fragments of himself, long buried under responsibilities? "Can I try to create something too?" he suggested, feigning a lightness he didn't quite feel as the question formed in his mind. "Of course, Dad," Lily beamed, momentarily illuminating the shadows that had begun to pull him back. As she handed him a brush, Mark felt a swell of vulnerability. Could he truly open himself in a moment like this, revealing that he too experienced moments of doubt? He took the brush and began to paint beside her, creating a tree that reflected his apprehensions. With each stroke, something unfurled within him, a sense of liberation. The shape emerged as hesitant and clumsy, but it stood tall among the evolving creativity surrounding them. "But what if it's not good enough?" he asked softly, summoning a glimpse of the vulnerability that gnawed at him. Lily glanced up. "But it's yours, Daddy. It doesn't have to be perfect. Trees are special even when they're different." Her statement struck an unexpected chord, reverberating through him. He had spent years perfecting the image of the ideal father or businessman, yet each achievement felt increasingly hollow. Here, she was, unveiling a truth he had been blind to. Authenticity belonged not to perfection, but to the unvarnished truth of emotions laid bare. "I want to be more like you," he confessed, voice barely above a whisper. "I want to find the courage to express myself without fear." The moment lingered, thickening the air around them. He greedily savored Lily's grin, a flower blooming in spring after a long winter. Suddenly, a loud knock interrupted the silence, echoing through their sanctum. It reverberated with a tension that broke the spell of creativity. Instinctively, Mark's heart raced. Was it a friend? Or perhaps a reminder of the world he had temporarily escaped? "Who could that be?" Lily asked, confusion wrapping her features. Mark swallowed hard, unable to shake the feeling that this unscheduled intrusion might threaten the sanctuary they had just begun to build. He hesitated, torn between the desire to preserve this moment of vulnerability and the external pressures that loomed outside their door. "Let's see," he said, rising to meet the caller, sensing that whatever lay beyond that threshold would inevitably impact them both. As he approached the door, a pall of uncertainty wrapped around him. Would this be the way forward? Or would it bring forth challenges forcing both him and Lily to confront what they had just begun to uncover? The door creaked open, and standing there was not just a neighbor, but a face from his past. A reminder of the man he used to be, and perhaps the barrier to the man he wanted to become. As their eyes connected, Mark's thoughts raced, uncertain of the ground beneath him. The burgeoning connection with Lily hung in the balance. The next words exchanged would redefine everything. What had he just invited into their fragile moment? Mark stood at the door, his hand frozen on the knob as he recognized the familiar face. The same face that had once smiled with camaraderie before life had twisted their paths into rivals. Ryan, his old colleague from the financial sector, a man synonymous with ambition and polished success, now looked burdened. The years had carved lines of stress into his forehead, but the glint in his eye betrayed an undeniable familiarity. "Mark," Ryan greeted, his voice a deep rumble, yet tinged with something like hesitation. It's been a while. Yeah, it has, Mark replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The weight of their past loomed between them like an invisible wall. Memories of late-night brainstorming sessions and the heady rush of deals danced through his mind, intertwined with the regrets of sacrifices made. He glanced back into the room where Lily was obliviously absorbed in her art, a sanctuary that Ryan's presence now threatened to disrupt. I didn't mean to intrude, Ryan continued, stepping slightly closer, as if trying to bridge the distance. I wanted to talk about old times. Something came up at work that made me think of you. The pent-up anxiety inside Mark surged. Old times? He was just beginning to find a new balance, riding the wave of vulnerability and fatherhood. Was it fair to invite the shadows of his past back into this burgeoning moment of trust with Lily? He hesitated, weighing the pros and cons, knowing he could easily sidestep this conversation. Yet the part of him that yearned for validation, the desire to reclaim some semblance of the man he had once been, was tempted. I'm a bit busy, Mark replied, his words boxed in by tension. Can we catch up later? Come on, just for a minute, Ryan pressed. There was an intensity in his voice that seemed to strip away Mark's defenses. I know things have changed. You're a father now. The word hung heavy, laced with an understanding that dawned with every failed attempt to reconcile the old Mark with the father he now aspired to be. Mark's grip tightened on the doorframe, caught between the inclination to protect the fragile environment he had begun to cultivate with Lily and the instinctive pull of familiarity. How do you know that? He asked, the question spilling forth, revealing the fragility of the facade he had been trying to maintain. Word travels fast in our circle, Ryan said, a slight smirk lifting the corner of his mouth. Besides, you and I both know how small the world can be. The arch of Ryan's brow hinted at underlying challenges. Unresolved competition, perhaps. Mark's heart raced, drawing forth an urge to cupboard his recent vulnerabilities, especially before someone who once represented an image of the man he felt he had lost. I can't just drop everything to reminisce, Mark asserted, but his voice held no conviction. In reality, he could feel the chains of expectation tightening. Should he show up as the man who thrived on success, or the father still learning to embrace his own insecurities in a vibrant rush of creativity and color? Ryan took a step closer, dropping his voice to a low murmur. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't important. Let's be honest. The way things went down at the office, there's unfinished business we can address. It's about your potential. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Could he allow himself to engage in this discussion without losing the progress he'd made with Lily? The tug-of-war between his professional aspirations and the emotional growth spurred by fatherhood intensified. He was standing at a precipice, trying to balance an old identity against the new revelations of self-worth he was slowly unearthing. Lily has been spending a lot of time on her art, and I can't ignore that right now, he said, trying to pull the focus back, willing to let the past remain locked in shadows for just a while longer. Art? Ryan scoffed lightly, but it didn't feel mocking. Rather, it was topped with a layer of uncertainty. Can she even make a living at that? Each word was a small wound, a reminder of the world that often equated success with profitability. The words stung Mark, but more deeply, they resonated with the conflict within him. Should he join the rat race again, or carve his own path, one that may not always align with traditional definitions of success? Mark's thoughts raced as he weighed his next steps. The dialogue of ambition versus authenticity churned in his heart like a tempest. He could let this altercation dissolve into the unimportant chatter of routine life, or he could confront the decision lurking at the edge of reality itself. Maybe it's time to find new measures of success, he finally articulated, aloud a quiver of defiance, surfing the wave of his conviction and doubt. We'll see about that, Ryan shot back, a challenge embedded in his tone. Mark stepped back into the room where Lily beamed over their collaborative artwork. The crude tree he feared might symbolize his self-doubt standing proud, beside her vibrant, whimsical creation. But as he looked back at Ryan, he acknowledged that confrontation with his past was inevitable. "Stay for a while," Mark found himself saying, words tumbling over his guarded heart. "Let's talk. Just not about work." What he didn't understand was the transformation soon to shake the very roots of their conversation, and with it, his understanding of self. As he ushered Ryan inside, a nagging question hung over him. Was he preparing to fortify his newfound identity, or unwittingly digging up more of his buried insecurities? The answer lay within the next moments. Inside the living room, the air vibrated with uncertainty, as though it could feel the weight of the past colliding with the present. Mark glanced over at Lily, her eyes gleaming with excitement as she fiddled with her colorful creations, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beside her. "Come in, Ryan," Mark managed, forcing a semblance of composure as he gestured towards a seat on the couch. "Lily and I were working on something special." Ryan sat, an air of incredulity hanging around him as he observed the scattered pencils and vibrant art. "So this is what you've been spending your time on?" Mark couldn't help but feel a prickle of defensiveness. He had begun to cultivate something of real value, a connection, a bridge across the chasm of his previous inattention. "Yes, and it's meaningful to us," he replied, glancing at Lily, who was blissfully focused on her imaginative world. "Meaningful," Ryan echoed, a hint of condescension in his tone. "You know, there are more sustainable careers than art, right? Is this really what you want to be doing? A noble pursuit can also be profitable." Mark felt a flicker of irritation, the kind that ignited when someone trod too heavily on his newfound path. "This isn't just about a career, Ryan. It's about exploring who Lily is, and who I can be as her father as we navigate that world together. I've realized how much I need to support her in being herself." To his surprise, the exchange sparked something in Lily too. She looked up, her tiny voice filled with confidence. "Daddy says I can be anything I want, and right now, I want to create. My art is my voice." The conviction behind her words pierced through the tension, and Mark watched as a flicker of uncertainty crossed Ryan's face, perhaps a reflection of his own long-forgotten dreams. Suddenly, Mark felt a surge of clarity wash over him. He knew that every moment he had spent with Lily, witnessing her passion unfurl, had transformed him fundamentally. "Art is not a whim," Mark asserted, grounding his words. "It's a way for Lily to express herself, to communicate her truths. I'm learning to embrace that in my own life too." Ryan shifted in his seat, his bravado momentarily faltering. "You've changed, Mark. You used to be so focused on tangible results, on success by any measure." "Maybe," Mark acknowledged, "but I've learned something vital in this transition. Success isn't just about status or financial achievements. It's about happiness." The realization settled in him as a warm truth. He had been so caught up in the race for respect and progression that he'd neglected the simple joys of connection. Lily danced around her artwork. "It's like how butterflies flutter. They don't worry about where they land. They just enjoy being pretty." Ryan's gaze softened, the weight of recognition flickering in his eyes. "And you really believe all this?" he asked Mark, with a newfound sincerity. There was an awakening present, hinting that perhaps he too had once yearned to find such freedom amidst the constraints of expectation. "Every day," Mark confessed, "I want to create a space where Lily can explore without judgment, where she can be free, even if it means redefining success for both of us." Ryan considered this carefully, the unyielding businessman seemingly confronted with an emotional crossroads. "It's not a common choice, but it seems to suit you," he said finally, openness creeping into his tone. Mark nodded, sensing that their dialogue shifted, allowing old walls to wear thin. Coming home wasn't just about finding my way back to Lily. It was a journey toward discovering authenticity. In that moment, Mark realized how intertwined they had all become. The essential work he had begun with Lily was now shaping a pivotal shift in the atmosphere surrounding Ryan. "Isn't it easier to uphold expectations and chase the highest achievements?" Ryan asked, vulnerability encasing his words around them like a warm embrace. Mark considered the question before answering, reflecting deeply. "Realizing there was more to fulfillment than recognition for ambition has been one of my biggest lessons. Every moment spent beside Lily reveals how painting her dreams into existence strengthens both our lives." The room, filled with the hum of creativity, vibrated with new possibilities, each moment woven into existence through vulnerability. "I think I've been measuring the wrong success too," Ryan admitted slowly. "Maybe I've let responsibilities overshadow what truly matters. I've only recently started thinking about how I want to pursue happiness." Mark smiled, understanding the subtle transformation unfolding amidst them. "Letting go of that fear isn't easy, but it's worth it. The first step often starts by simply diving into the unknown." The conversation deepened as the hours slipped by, each sharing thoughts on vulnerability, creativity, and the current of dreams that guided their lives. Each of them began to dismantle the rigid definitions that constrained their existence, illuminating a path toward liberation and self-discovery. When Ryan finally left, a subtle nod of appreciation passed between the two men. Mark felt lighter, as if shedding the old definitions of success had lifted a weight off his shoulders. Looking back to where Lily had been all along, deeply engrossed in painting her magical forest, Mark approached her once more. "You know, I want to show you a part of my life too. Your daddy's life, if you're open to that." Lily looked up, eyes bright and inquisitive. "What do you mean?" "I want to take you into the real world, a world I've been hiding from. And perhaps it'll help us understand each other even better." She smiled, her spirit resistant to rejection. Mark felt the warmth of fulfillment swell within him. The ease of being a good father wasn't solely about protection. It was about being open to exploring fears together and sharing the path toward self-acceptance. "Yes," Lily exclaimed. "Let's paint our futures together." And there, amidst the remnants of paint and their collaborative art, Mark felt the quiet strength of resolve flow through him, underscoring how far he had transformed. Here stood a father redefined, not just in relation to his daughter, but in connection with his own aspirations, illuminated by the beauty of authenticity. He had conquered the vast distance between himself and his daughter, proving to them both that the journey toward fulfillment is the real masterpiece. Mark beamed, enveloped by a renewed sense of purpose, realizing his role was not merely supportive, it was co-creator of both their destinies. From this point forward, he would embrace vulnerability as strength, and as they ventured forth into the unknown, embarking on their next chapter, a canvas of possibilities ready to be painted, Mark's heart hummed to life with gratitude and courage. The horizon was bright, filled with colors yet to be explored. It promised growth, creativity, and the unyielding bond of a father, finally embracing life alongside his daughter. Now, the world awaited them both, vibrant and full of potential. And as a final jolt of instinct spread through him, a fire of urgency to share this metamorphosis, Mark turned back to the audience, knowing the importance of what had just transpired, recognizing this was a moment meant to ripple outward. So he implored, "You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion." The time for connection is now.